It's been 4 years since I was initially elected to mayor, and in that 4 years, I think we've accomplished a great deal. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And where it's put us is really on a peak. And some people look at that peak and think we've accomplished, we're successful, we've done something nobody thought we could do. And that would be wrong. Because where that peak really is it shows us all the things ahead of us, all the things we can accomplish, all the challenges, but more importantly, all the successes that await us if we just keep that same energy and that same commitment to building this city into something none of us dreamed about just a couple years ago. And I'm seeing people for the first time starting to believe in it, that we're becoming something that is world class. And there are a lot of people that would like to stop that progress. And I think it's for a myriad of reasons. One is, who are we to think we can do it? Where do we get off doing it? And how dare us ask questions that nobody else is willing to ask? And I think that's what we're seeing right now, is that turmoil. But you know, in engineering and metallurgy, what you do with metal is you heat it up, and you get it just dancing, you know, just dancing, all those molecules. And then, as it cools down with all of them lined up, and with a much stronger piece of metal that can withstand just about anything. And I sometimes think that's where we are right now with all this Section 8 stuff. It's just boiling a little bit. And when it cools down, we're going to have something magnificent that everybody can see. But until then, the biggest threat to this city right now are the people using Section 8 for their own purposes, for their own political agenda. Make no mistake about that. That issue does have the ability to stop everything, to turn what we're doing into something that becomes mediocre, that becomes irrelevant on the overall scheme of things. You know, the vice mayor wrote them a letter saying, could we just have a moratorium till we figure this out, till we figure out what the impact it's having on our neighborhoods, what we can do to adjust, what we can do to make it work. You know what they told us? That even writing the letter was illegal, that it was a violation of the law for us to even suggest anything to stop Section 8 in any way. How is that possible in America? But that is one of the things that we're going to have to fight in the lawsuit, is that we dared to write that letter. And all we were doing was reaching out for some help. And their response was to turn their back to us. And now they're on the attack. You know, 49 requests for documents, like every single document that in any way references an arrest for the last 5 years. That's 1 million documents, and they're everywhere. You know, every phone message, every email. It would literally take us about $100,000 to respond to that. And there's no way we can respond to it. I mean, we don't have very many employees left. You know, every one of those employees is working at maximum capacity now. And why would they need it? It's just to threaten us, to cost us money, to scare us into a settlement. They want us to do exactly what that other city did, is recognize that they can beat us and beat us and beat us, and that there's no winning. Well, you know, Dwight Eisenhower once said, it doesn't matter how big the dog in the fight is. It matters how big the fight is in the dog. And they picked on the wrong dog. This is the city of Lancaster, and we are proud of what we're doing. And I don't care how big they are. And I hope you agree with me that this is an issue worth fighting for. But why is that the biggest threat? I mean, why don't I just cave in? Why don't I just tell Section 8 that whatever they want to do is right? Right now, we are the most diverse, integrated city in LA County, which means probably the state, which means probably the country. I don't have any information to the contrary. I actually think we may be the most integrated city in America. Every indication is that that might be true. Well, you know, that's not just a bragging right. I think that's the reason we're as successful as we are. That in the worst economic downturn any of us have experienced, well, wait a minute, Larry Chimboli's here. In the worst economic downturn that any of us, except Larry, have experienced, we've rebuilt our downtown. We've taken crime and cut it in almost in half. And I'd like to say I did it, but it was the Sheriff's Department that did that. Four years ago, we were inundated with gangs, inundated with them. And they were of all kinds and colors. Isn't that right? They were everywhere. We had 17 young people gunned down in our streets. 17 in 1 year. Last year, 0. Not one. I think it's because of that diversity. And in fact, the science tells us exactly that. Scott Page is the leading, he first got his start in theories of complexity, and then he went into diversity and what kind of decisions people make and what kind of substantive things just seem to emerge when you have diverse groups. The more diverse, the more functionally diverse, the greater the emergence of whatever you're doing occurs. It's almost magical. And I think we have to recognize that that's what's happening to us. People take our attention and focus it like a laser beam on our differences. And they miss what that diversity is doing for us. We are accomplishing things no other city in America is accomplishing right now. And I think that's the reason. And, you know, this picture was taken because of everybody wore blue jeans in support of a rape victim, and that was the reason for the picture. But look at that picture. You know, this city does not recognize color. This is the group that's leading our city. It could not be more diverse. And I think that's the reason it's that successful. And Section 8 threatens that, the way it is currently administered. And I have to be very clear of what I say, because it turns out it might be a crime, what I say, if I say something bad about Section 8. Who would have thought that? And, you know, they're very good at taking what I say and cutting it up, and just taking half the sentence. So it's almost impossible for me to say anything. But when has that ever stopped me? In LA County, if you were to look at all the households, that's the percentage of Section 8 households at the top. It's a little over 1%. In Lancaster, it's 5%. It's imbalanced. Any way you look at it, it's imbalanced. But even that would be okay, because let's, you know, in fairness, what we have not talked about is the benefit of Section 8. And there is a benefit to us as a city. It's disposable income that's being brought into our city. Those foreclosed homes that are sitting vacant have no use to us. And if the Section 8 was coming in a balanced way, we'd be okay with it. If they also gave us the money that they keep down in Los Angeles to take care of this group of people. And it's always about money. I mean, whenever they say it's not about the money, it's about the money. And that's what this is about. They want to keep those billions of dollars down in the city, but send the people it's supposed to benefit someplace else. And it's not just us. It's Victorville. It's Apple Valley. They are taking the poor people of the inner city and moving them to the suburbs. And they do it by giving them the foreclosed homes. But they're not giving any of the services. And as a result, we have the highest mortality rate of preventable diseases of anywhere in the state. We have people dying every single day because of the services not being available. And they die quietly and they die secretly. And nobody has to look at that ugly fact. Instead, they have protests about me daring to pull back the drape, pull back the curtain, and say, let's look at this and see what it's doing to us. Since they got rid of the Section 8 investigators, and remember, of all the Section 8 people, it was 1% of those people causing problems. A minute percentage. But that's what it always is that sucks up our services. It's about 1% of every demographic that commit the crimes, that suck up all the money, that keep us from doing incredible things we could be doing with that money. And the same was true with Section 8. And those investigators had dropped it almost down to nothing when they decided to file this lawsuit. The crime rate paralleled it. The regression was unbelievable to look at. It was just so clear what was happening. So they fire all the Section 8 investigators, LA County, and all of their wisdom. And look what's happened. 10% of the crime is Section 8 now. That was not the case 7 months ago. Exactly what we said was going to happen is happening. And what are the neighborhoods affected? It's not my neighborhood. It's the same group that HUD says they're supposed to be protecting that is being affected. Are we going to see a resurgence of gangs? We very well may. Not if Bob Johnson is here, but it's becoming harder, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
And it shouldn't be harder. And keep in mind, when you take Palmdale and Lancaster, put them together, I know I'm not supposed to say that either, but if they were magically to come together someday, we'd be the size of St. Paul. St. Paul has 7 hospitals. We have 2. Is it any wonder we have the highest mortality rate? And is it any wonder why we might complain about more poor people being relocated into this area? Because there is nothing here for them. Nothing. And if they would give us those services, I would say fine. Because I guarantee you, the way this city works, and if it was integrated into all the neighborhoods, they wouldn't be on Section 8 in a couple years. This community is really coming together and having an impact on the young people in it. And the young people seem to be changing. This is what Section 8 looks like today. Our complaint is that it's not spread out, that it's being grouped in certain sections of the city. And the reason that is so threatening to us as a city and should be threatening to you is because this is what's going to happen to our city. That perfectly integrated neighborhood, the most integrated city that any of us have ever heard of, is going to segregate. How is it possible the federal government is behind this? How is it possible that the very people who are supposed to be leading the integration movement are the ones forcing the segregation of our city? But the statistics don't lie. That is what we have to look forward to. And if that happens, I don't want to live here. We're just like everybody else then. And I have never thrived being like everybody else. And I don't think you do either. We have something to be incredibly proud of that is now blossoming into something that is truly going to be magnificent. But if that happens, it dies. Look what happened in Santa Clarita last week. Look what happened. They have a section of town that is predominantly African American, and a high concentration of Section 8. And the mayor of that city actually said, let's put a fence around it. How is that possible that words like that would come out of an elected official's mouth and ship them to Palmdale? Remember the last time elected officials were talking about putting fence around demographic areas and then shipping them someplace? What happened? This was the mayor of that city. And if it continues, if the Section 8 program continues to be administered the way it is, people will be saying that here. And that would be a sin. And it is a sin that we are not fighting that with everything we have. But we are in many ways. We really have taken the bull by the horns in so many ways, and that's what I want to talk to you about. What I'm talking about that we should be preserving and fighting for and making it grow. You know, what's happening in America today is government is now feeding on itself. You know, we're like a cancer consuming each other, the governmental entities. Mark told me that 80% of his time is spent fighting with other governmental agencies. Those governmental agencies are there to serve us. You know, they forgot why they're here. And it's self-consuming. But look what he's done with that 20%. You know, I talked to you about the health problems we have in the city. Our childhood obesity is through the roof. It leads the county. Our diabetes leads the county. Renal failure is a growth industry here. That's kidney failure. At AV Hospital, almost every day they're removing somebody's kidneys because of renal failure. Totally preventable, easily preventable. 1 protein bar a day will do it. 2's better, but 1 will stop it. $1.50 a day. I can't get the county to give our wellness homes the protein bars that would stop the renal failure. I mean, why do you think get up at 4 o'clock in the morning someday and go through the shopping centers and you'll see clusters of cars and you'll wonder why they're there. That's the dialysis center that all the people are going to because their kidneys no longer work. Easily preventable. One neighborhood we have, there's over, 82% of the homes affected by diabetes. One neighborhood, 82%. That's how bad this thing is. But what did we do? We didn't cry about it. We didn't whine about it. We actually started to do something. We now have, and we're the only city in the nation that does this, we now have wellness homes in all of these neighborhoods. There's a few we haven't reached yet, but they're on the books and they're planned. And how do we fund those? People out of their own pocket fund them. People have written a check to convert these foreclosed homes that the city has purchased into the wellness homes. And we now have doctors and nurses and volunteers and nursing students, all kinds of health professionals that are manning these homes, that went out door to door and surveyed the neighborhood for what their health conditions are. And with that, we've got plans to start treating it. Asthma is a major problem. Do you know there's a company that makes a device that I saw it at TEDMed. You blow in it, right? And it uses the internet, sends the data to the server, and it will predict an asthma attack 3 days before it occurs. Is that amazing? Absolutely amazing. With the wellness homes, we're going to then be able to either call the parent, because it's usually children, walk to the door and knock on the door and say, Johnny's not taking his meds. He's going to have an asthma attack. Have you ever seen an asthma attack? It is horrifying. It is a child who cannot breathe, and sometimes it kills them. We now have the ability to stop it before it ever starts. We're the only city in the world, to my knowledge, doing this. I know we're the only city in America doing this, because when I told them about it at TED, their mouths fell open, because it's just so obvious. let's not wait for the emergent situation to occur. Let's intercept it. Let's have people dealing with it now. The obesity problem, that's me up on the right. UCLA came up, I went down and met with the pediatric public health people. And they have the top program in the world for pediatric public health. And I said, okay, so what can we do about the childhood obesity? A couple things that work. If we have salad bars for them in school, it'll drop calories, if they can serve themselves, drop calories, 100 calories a day. If we make it a rule in school that you not be allowed to eat in class or in the hallways, you can drop it another 100 to 150 calories a day. But what actually works is the Xbox Connect. Of course it's the Xbox Connect. Why wouldn't we know that? But you take obese children and put them on the Xbox Connect, and it's an avatar. I don't know if you've seen it, but whatever you do, it does it on the screen. And so they have all these different exercise games. We have problems with the kids if you don't monitor them, because their feet will bleed. That's how much they do it. They won't stop. They get blisters, and then their feet bleed. So you got to monitor how long they're allowed to use it. What a perfect solution. So we put all of those in the wellness homes. We had the bike drawing and giveaway at Christmas, and maybe you read about it, but you missed the significant part of it. The most significant part about that was who put the bikes together with the child. It was the deputies. It was the parent, the child, and the deputy who put that bike together. Whole different relationship. I mean, as you can see in the upper left corner, although, really, a flak jacket. But you see, we're developing neighborhoods now. And you go there, go anytime to the neighborhood impact homes that the churches are running. Doesn't cost anything to the city. All we had to do was supply the home. You'll see 50 to 100 kids in an incredibly nurturing environment. They have cooking classes, they have homework, they have health classes. It goes on and on and on. But most importantly, 50 to 100 kids are at each one of these homes. We can't open them fast enough. Nobody else in America is doing that. Those kids will never join a gang. The next step is we're going to put the anti-bullying program right in the neighborhood. One of the problems that I've encountered being mayor, and my wife, I guess, has a bigger problem with it than I do, is whenever we go someplace, people stare. Whenever I'm in a restaurant, people come up and talk to me, and it bothers her that we never can do anything together, without constant interruption. So we bought a house down in Laguna, and on weekends, that's where she goes, and sometimes I get to go. But it's one of those neighborhoods that I used to read about and never thought I'd actually live in, but we're blessed enough that we now have a home there. And it's given me the opportunity to see what is it that makes this place so wonderful. And you know what it is? It has nothing to do with money, has nothing to do with the quality of the house. They have bicycle clubs, Saturday and Sunday. Neighbors get together, get on their, they're all my age, and they put on those tight bicycle outfits. They look ridiculous, but they do, and they have bicycle clubs. They have yoga classes. They have, public tennis courts, just like we do, and they have tennis clubs. They have volleyball. They have all the things we can do in the neighborhoods, and that's what makes the quality of life there so inviting to the people that pay an ungodly amount of money to live there. And we can have it here for free. All we have to do is trust each other and love each other and get to know each other. And I think we're doing it. Jim is our statistician. This is a science, how we run this city. And Jim is the linchpin of that science. If the numbers don't support it, we don't do it. The numbers tell us where the problems are. The reason we know why Section 8 is a problem the way it is currently administered is because we're the only one looking at the numbers. We take the data, we run it through the computer, and whatever it tells us, it tells us. That's true with everything. What we're seeing in those neighborhoods is possession of the neighborhood, and they're protecting each other. It's becoming increasingly dangerous to commit a burglary in these neighborhoods because they will chase you down and, well, I'll just get in trouble if I keep talking. But there's this community developing. And you know what we got that they don't have down in Laguna? We got community gardens. Those community gardens, if you're not involved in one, you're missing an incredible adventure. They become social centers. In the summer and the spring, at night, you know, they bring in their own lights, they have tables, and that's where everybody congregates. They've become social centers. And it also improves the health of the community. We're doing things here for free that people pay a fortune for elsewhere. The bicycle clubs. We're putting a lot of money into bicycle paths that are safe because right now they're not too safe. We're going to make them a lot safer. It will actually be conceivable that I can ride my bike back and forth to City Hall, and that would be the mode of transportation as soon as we're done with those trails. Imagine what that does to the health of the community. To say nothing of, we're happier, you know? Serotonin increases, dopamine increases. Our life is better when we just exercise. Our schools. Last time I was here, I was talking about the deplorable condition of the schools. But I forgot to talk about SOAR. Look at SOAR. You know, that's in the top school of the nation. Our test scores there are better than anywhere else. We could compete with Harvard Westlake at SOAR. Those kids, every one of them went on to college. Most of them went on to college with 2 years of college already completed. Who can say that? Nobody that I'm aware of. We have one of the best schools in the country, and it's a public school. They're now making a pre-SOAR school so kids can get into it. But the most amazing thing about that school, most of their parents never went to college. These are not the kids you would expect to be outrageously successful. They don't have the family background in many respects, and they're our best. They're our best and our brightest. They're exceeding all of our expectations right here in Lancaster. Are you enjoying the boulevard? Everybody? We protect that like the jewel it is. Some kids got in a fight last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, and I found myself in the middle of it, yelling at them. Bob wasn't too happy with that. How dare they fight on our boulevard, you know? The farmer's market, everybody been there? Yeah. That's really an upscale thing, you know? I mean, Santa Monica does that, not Lancaster. And it was interesting the first time it happened, because, you know, these people come to make money. They're not doing it for fun like we are, right? So we didn't have very many. By the time it was over that night, they're all on the phone calling their friends. You can't believe this place. We're actually one of the most thriving farmers market in the state right now. Our people love it. You know, the diversity thing, that's 35,000 people. Not one police incident. How dare them come up here and tell us how racially divided we are? I mean, look at it. Not one police incident. This is not about race. It is about people who follow the rules, which are there on that boulevard and in this room, and that small percentage who refuse to follow the rules. And I am never, ever going to be afraid to point the finger at who is doing what. And these guys are never going to stop enforcing those rules. Because the moment they do, that's the last time we get to do that. And if you weren't there, you missed an incredible event. I mean, the whole night was just, it was great. Wasn't it, Anita? You were there. It was just, it crackled. We're doing things that other cities are just now talking about. You know, you can do most of your transactions with the city now online. Your plan checks, all of the things, your business licenses, all of those things. There's no longer delays. Go onto the internet, do it, it's yours. If you need corrections, you're notified immediately. It makes this a great place to invest. Because what happens in most cities, you get the loan, you buy the property, and then you pay interest for 2 years while government jerks you around. You know, you got to go here and here and here. And that's what happens in most cities. One of the solar projects was telling me that they can be up and running 60 days. In the county, it takes 2 years just to get permits. You know, that's the difference. And what it is, it's not because the county's so bad, it's that the county is like every other government entity. In this city, it's different. In this city, we give you a date, we're waiting for you. You should never have to wait for us. And if that means we work weekends, we work weekends. And so far, it's working, isn't it, Mark? I mean, our turnaround time is faster than anyone else. I was in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and I spoke at the World Future Energy Conference. I was the first mayor in history to ever speak there, and the only mayor to ever speak there. I met with the Secretary of IRENA for the UN, which is the Environmental Alternative Energy Group for the United Nations. And I also was, after my speech, the Director General for Dubai. One of his people came and we had dinner at his house and then met with him. And the discussion was about being a smart sister city with Dubai, the most futuristic, magnificent city ever built. But they're interested in us for a lot of reasons. There was a time in the Middle East that a map similar to that indicated the oil deposits, the energy reserves. And they were all underground and nobody had developed them. And they were just undeveloped energy reserves. That is the energy reserves of America. Because one thing we know for certain, that oil is going to run out. In Abu Dhabi, they know the day it's going to run out with the current oil reserves. I mean, the day at the current usage when it will run out. If they increase production, the day changes. But they know beyond any doubt that someday they are not going to have oil. And when that happens, look where we are. We can produce more kilowatts than any place in the northern hemisphere because of our air quality, our altitude, our longitude and latitude. They've all coalesced to literally make us the center of the universe when it comes to producing energy. Why would we waste that? Why would we squander that? Why would we do anything to affect that air quality? This is the greatest investment long-term out there, right here, where we live. I don't have any doubt about that. I just don't know when. When's it going to run out? I suspect we're not going to have to wait that long. The reason we're not going to have to wait that long is you can get in this debate all you want about whether or not the ice caps are melting, but they are melting. There isn't any doubt about that. We're having one ecological crisis after the next. Eventually, we're going to have some catastrophic event where the people of this planet are going to demand we shift to alternative energy. It's inevitable. And when that day happens, look where we're sitting. It's such a unique opportunity. In Abu Dhabi, they recognize that. In Dubai, they recognize that. They recognize it better than we do. We need to get on this in a much bigger way than we ever have. Edison has to come to the table with us and agree that we will be the first net zero city in the world. Right now, we're closer than anyone else. 90% of our municipal electricity is solar. 90%, actually a little over. You know, we got a baseball stadium. You've all seen the Jethawks Stadium at night. You know, that could be net zero, but there's a law that says we can't be totally net zero. But over 90% of the electricity for that place is solar. No place else in the world. In 3 years, 24% of this city's electricity is solar. No one else can say that. And that's why the Director General wanted to meet with me. That's why the world's eyes are starting to turn to Lancaster. Because every country is going to want to have at least one net zero city. And as soon as Edison puts their arms around us and hugs us and says, we want to have a net zero city too, it's going to happen. There is no technological reason that it can't happen. We just all have to agree, right? Now, in fairness, we're on the same team here. We just got to get our bosses on our team. But we're moving ahead one way or the other. You know, we have the Lancaster Power Authority. We have the California Clean Energy Authority. Those are both city agencies now. We're going to be able to produce and sell power. I actually see a day when our taxes are going to be de minimis because we're going to be generating that much money. Ultimately, we are going to power Southern California. And we get to sell that. You know, all these deals I'm making with all these companies, the first couple guys that got in, they got in under the radar. But then I went to China, and in China, the government owns a piece of all those companies. Well, why aren't we? It doesn't have to be a big piece, but it does have to be a piece because it generates income. We're going to be able to have all of the things other cities have without having to tax for it. Isn't any doubt in our mind that that's what's going to occur. That's what the projections show. It's just when. I've told you about the Abu Dhabi trip. The Japanese, on the lower left corner, the Japanese man there, he's head of the Japanese power, the whole country. He's the head of it. The next trip I'm taking is to Japan, and it's Fukushima. Remember where the nuclear power plant went off? We're going to be meeting with them and talking to them about the smart sister city. It's kind of interesting what he told us. You know, we ran into him in a restaurant, and then the relationship developed from there. It was totally fortuitous. But he was telling us that if you took the exclusion zone around that nuclear power plant and put solar panels on it, you'd produce more energy than the nuclear power plant did. Unfortunately, it took poisoning a city to do it. But the technology is here already, and we're able to do it in a cost-effective manner. We just have to have the will. You know, one of the most progressive governors was Richardson, and it wasn't a surprise to me that he was at the World Future Energy Conference, and he knew exactly what we were talking about. He's the guy who stole our spaceport from Mojave. I had a few words to say to him about that. He was very proud of himself, actually. You've heard a lot about the plane that's going up, this eye in the sky, and whatever you want to call it. And the question that's being raised is, well, if we've dropped crime 50%, or almost 50%, why do we need it? Because that's not enough. We have to be the safest city in America. And it's no more intrusive than the helicopters up there now. It's just available when we need it. That's the only difference. We have the ability, by making minor adjustments, to make this an incredible place, and we're doing it. That's the next big event. We're going to have 30,000 people on the boulevard again when the museum opens. Better yet, that upper area, we can have events up there. We rent it out. It changes the whole dynamic of the boulevard. We're really, really excited about that. I'm trying to get McDonald, you know the guy who did the sculptures at the Olympics in '84, and I mean, he's just a world-famous sculptor. And he's talking about coming to open it, and it's just a matter of scheduling. That's going to be really cool. This is going to be huge. Remember when we were talking to you about we wanted Lancaster Boulevard to be the art center for the North LA County? It's happening. It's getting there. All of those things are coming together. I want to be clear about this. Minimal investment from the city to go on these trips. All of my expenses I pay for. It's a huge investment. But if we don't develop those relationships, they're not going to look at us. And we need foreign investment in this city. I have every expectation that as soon as the world economy straightens out, that's where they're coming. They're going to come here. And so we have to keep doing that. We have to keep putting ourselves on the radar. You know, none of these people ever heard of Lancaster till we got there. Now they want to come see it, and in fact are coming to see it. It's going to take a little more time, but all of us having come together, and it really is all of us. You know, all I do is make noise and push people out of the way. You know, essentially that's what my role of the mayor is, so that the really productive people can make things happen. And they are making them happen. You know, those people on those commissions, that the Criminal Justice Commission that has put the whole city working on the crime problem. We wouldn't be there without them, would we? You know, it was historic what we've accomplished crime-wise. But it wasn't just the department. It was the whole community coming together. Those neighborhood impact homes, we can't measure the effect they're having on crime, but we know they are. It's all of us getting committed and recognizing, regardless of what we might plan in the future, we're probably going to live and die here. It ought to be the greatest place in the world, because this is where we live. And I think people are finally getting onto that and seeing that there really isn't any limit to what we can do. But I need your help. These people who are demonstrating at every opportunity, pointing out every negative thing they can, are much more detrimental than you think. And I never see them at the impact homes. Where's Henry? You know, Henry's church has one of the best impact homes we have, and he did it really fast. A lot of kids there. But those folks are never there, are they? They're never there. And I would have a lot more patience with them if they were. I need your help on that. I need the commitment of this city to be, we're doing something wonderful here. You know, the people who filed the lawsuit have never talked to me. The HUD people have never looked at an impact home, have never talked to anybody in those neighborhoods where the impact homes and the wellness homes are. They don't know us. They have just heard about us, and none of it is who we really are. We need to start being more proud of who we are, and we need to start announcing it to the world. We're doing things nobody else is, and we're doing them together. And I think that's something we should be incredibly proud of. Thank you.